up, jazz guitar friends? Larry Tambanini here in the Gig Simulator, LT Jazz Guitar, under 5 minutes. You just caught me playing through Blue Bossa. But I'm not here today to talk about Blue Bossa. I'm here today to talk about some things, or one thing that you can do to really try to get that Pat Martino sound in your playing, right? So check it out. The first thing that you're going to do to try to sound like Pat is, hey man, you're going to lower your voice. You're going to be really mysterious. Music is just food and the guitar is just a fork. Far out, man. Just kidding. If anybody has heard Pat speak, you know he has a very identifiable speaking voice. Just like he's got a very identifiable guitar tone, right? Sure, he's got like maybe a darker sound, but when I think about Pat Martino, I think about those eighth notes. The Philly eighth note, right? Kind of goes back to Billy Bean. Pat sort of got his feel and sound from Billy. And then Pat sort of like took it to another level, and you can hear other players from Philly like Tom Giacobetti or Jimmy Bruno, some great players. Even I tried to pull from that well quite a bit, right? Now, when you listen and you try to play like Pat, there's so much stuff on him with his 12-point star and his I-ching, and the sound of one hand clapping was all very like kind of hip and really aesthetic, right? He had the market cornered on aesthetics, but really the whole thing, none of that stuff is going to work if you don't have a strong eighth note. You got to have a strong eighth note. So when I was taking that chorus, you heard me play through an entire chorus over Blue Bossa. Now I picked Blue Bossa because it's not a long form, it's an easy form, right? It's just 16 bars. And it's like primarily a minor tune, which sort of like lends itself to some of Pat's stylings. The fact that it is not a swing song and a bossa song is something I want to talk about. Now, it's easier to play over Latin stuff because your eighths can be a little straighter and still work. And plus, like, there's more rhythm there. So everything you're doing sounds a little bit more hip. Sure, there's a big difference between straight eighths and swing eighths. And sure, Pat played slightly different over a swing feel over a Latin feel, but we're not going to talk about that. We're going to be real easy and just sort of talk about this idea. Now check it out. The first thing you want to do to sort of like get that feel in your head is just like pump out a rhythm. In this case, you can kind of hang out on the C note because it works the whole time, right? Right, so you hear it, you go through. So I'm going to try to get those subdivisions. You can hear it, right? You know. Right, I ended up playing a little bit of a triplet. I couldn't help myself. So anyway, you can kind of hear how that is gonna like kind of help your sound, you know. You know, you don't want to get too mechanical, but again, you want to develop that strong eighth note kind of sound. Because again, that's pretty much what's happening. And again, if I was to just sort of talk about some of the lines that I played over that one chorus, right? The first thing I ended up doing is, especially when you're playing over like minor chords for a long time, you really want to take advantage of whatever dominant chords you can. So before I played my phrase, I wanted to make sure I had some pickups happening on that G7. Wow, okay, a lot of notes over those first 4 bars. And again, you caught me playing over. Just kind of a straight up minor line. Now, the way that Pat phrases these eighth notes, right? You heard that chromatic sound. I played like a C sharp and a B in there to take me to that F minor. And then another sort of pentatonic line in eighth notes that Pat plays a lot, right? Let's just talk about that one again. you kind of heard a couple of Pat's licks there, which again, after being Pat's roadie and his student and his friend for a while, that was really my main objective, was to kind of get that eighth note. But you know what? Like, I kind of got caught up in the 12. I got stuck in the star. I got stuck in a lot of the other aesthetics that I really wasn't thinking about, like, from the ground up. And while I sort of started to understand some of the ideas with the minor conversion concept, I didn't understand the main thing, and that was the, propulsion you needed from the rhythm to make it work. Everything that Pat did had that rhythm forward motion. Did he have as much rhythm, was he as critical with rhythms as like Jim Hall or Wes Montgomery? No, he wasn't. But his eighth note was so strong that was just enough, right? It was almost like Pat was a fastball pitcher, and he was going to crush you with fastballs. He didn't have a lot of moves, but he didn't need a lot of moves. So once you sort of get like that eighth note feel and you're playing that driving eighth note, and you can sort of start to connect some ideas like that. And again, he wasn't just like machine gunning the whole time, right? There are some breaks in those phrases. And again, just that first line, again, you want to start on that. I missed one eighth note there, and you can see how just kind of changing one line, missing one note, one small little thing can totally affect what you're playing. It's also tough to play the same line over and over again when you're trying to improvise. But again, the way Pat picked, everything seemed like he was picking everything, but he wasn't. Very strong, very articulate, right, with the way he played, just again, like the way he spoke, man, far out. So if you're trying to sound like Pat Martino, and you're trying to be like, well, I'm playing this A minor 7 flat 5, but I'm thinking C minor, and you're doing the star, and like maybe you're like spelling out like, words with scales like he would do in his song Think Tank. And like maybe you kind of know his licks, but then you sort of can't really piece it all together. Well, it's not anything else but those eighth notes. So just start in there. Just have fun with just trying to play those eighth notes and try to play some lines. Another thing that Pat did was he would try to like chromatically move a line until it would sort of resolve, right? You can kind of hear. Another thing that Pat would do is he would kind of take one finger and play like, right? So check it out. If you're really trying to sound like Pat and you're stuck in the star and you're trying to like convert everything to minor chords, like you're not really that far off, but you should just really examine those eighth notes. Try to just, try to sound like Pat in that sense. Try to just get his eighth notes. If you have a chance, have like a band in the box or a gig simulator or whatever you got at home, really just try to like take one note and like bomb it in there. And when you get tired of that note, then you can start like putting some phrases in. And then those phrases are ultimately just going to get longer and longer and longer. And your eighth notes are just going to get stronger. So, all right, jazz guitar friends, if you want to sound like Pat, stay out of the star. Stop making everything a minor chord. Work on your eighth notes because that's where it's at. That's where the swing's at. All right, if you like this video and you made it this far, don't forget to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate all the awesome support. It's my first video of 2025. I hope everyone's having a great start to the year. Be safe and keep swinging. Bebop!